You know, usually when we think about the structures that hold our world together, we picture like physical things.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Like steel beams.
Exactly. Steel beams, concrete foundations, suspension cables.
Right.
If a bridge is built correctly, it holds the weight of thousands of cars. But if a bolt is missing or, I don't know, a cable snaps, you see the structural weakness immediately.
Yeah, the failure is completely visible.
It's an entirely binary system. I mean, it either works or it completely collapses.
Because it is engineered. It's predictable, right? It's governed by strict physical laws. There really isn't much room for interpretation when it comes to a steel beam.
Right. But then you step into the world of human communication,
Yeah.
and specifically the English language,
Yeah.
and suddenly you are trying to build a bridge out of fog.
That's a great way to put it. Out of fog.
We don't have steel beams here. Instead, we rely on these microscopic, seemingly invisible little joints to hold our most complex thoughts together.
Yeah, it's wild when you really think about it.
We are trusting the entire weight of our intentions, our relationships, and like our careers on words that are literally 2 or 3 letters long.
2 or 3 letters.
Yeah. And if you swap out just one of those tiny invisible joints, the entire meaning of the structure doesn't necessarily collapse, which honestly might actually be preferable.
Right. At least then you'd know you made a mistake.
Exactly. Instead, it changes into something you never intended to build in the first place. You end up delivering a completely different message, and you might not even realize you've done it.
To really grasp the stakes of what we are analyzing today, it helps to imagine a sprawling, densely interconnected cityscape.
Okay. A cityscape.
Yeah, that cityscape is the English language. You have millions of people moving around, millions of ideas intersecting at high speeds.
Right.
And the prepositions to and for, which we're focusing on today, they are not just arbitrary grammar rules you memorize for a test.
No.
They're the traffic lights. They're the one-way signs.
Yeah.
And the routing algorithms of this entire city. They direct the flow of human psychology.
Wow.
So this isn't just a mechanical lesson about where to put a word in a sentence. It is a psychological exploration of how we position ourselves relative to every other person, object, and concept in our lives.
And that brings us to our mission for this deep dive. For you, the listener, we are looking at a really fascinating guide on grammar and usage today.
Yeah, it's titled Mastering Prepositions, the Essential Guide to To and For.
Yes, and we are going to decode how these 2 incredibly small words can completely alter your relationships, dictate your career status, and reveal your deepest personal intentions before you even consciously recognize them.
It's a lot of power for 2 words.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this, because before the source material even gives a single structural rule about to or for, it establishes a rather intense philosophical baseline.
It really does. It sets a baseline regarding who is actually speaking.
Right. It addresses the concept of the learner directly.
Yeah, and it does so with a very specific disclaimer right up front.
Which I found so interesting.
The guide explicitly states that while certain phrasing used by a learner might not be technically incorrect.
Meaning, like, the literal definition of the words conveys the basic idea.
Exactly. Even if it conveys the idea, it is considered less native.
Less native.
Yes. The text strongly advises that whenever there is flexible use, the speaker should always lean toward the native way.
And how does it define that?
It defines the native way as a method that does not include errors or mistakes in its specific application. It's very rigid.
I found that distinction really striking. It sets up this rigid binary right out of the gate.
It does.
But let's look at the reality of how language functions in the wild. I mean, if the learner's way isn't technically wrong,
Right.
if the person you are talking to on the street or, in the boardroom understands exactly what you mean, why is there such an intense insistence on adopting the native phrasing?
It's a fair question.
Is language ultimately about strict precision and adhering to some invisible cultural code, or is it fundamentally just about getting your point across? Because if I say something slightly clunky but you comprehend my meaning, haven't we successfully communicated?
We have achieved comprehension, yes. But the guide is pointing toward a much deeper linguistic reality.
Which is?
The massive gulf between mere comprehension and actual belonging.
A longing, okay.
Yeah. If you are just trying to buy a cup of coffee or ask for directions to the train station, mere comprehension is perfectly adequate.
The transaction is completed.
Exactly. The transaction is done. However, if you are trying to build trust,
Oh.
if you are negotiating a high-stakes contract, Or if you are attempting to form a deep emotional bond with someone, you have to speak the subconscious language of the listener.
You have to match their internal rhythm.
Precisely. When someone uses phrasing that is technically accurate but culturally unnatural, it creates this subtle cognitive dissonance.
Like a mental speed bump.
Yes. The listener understands the words, but their brain has to work a tiny fraction of a second harder to process the sentence.
Because it doesn't fit the pattern.
Yeah, right. It doesn't fit the established acoustic pattern they expect. And over the course of a long conversation, that tiny friction accumulates.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
It creates a subconscious distance. So mastering these incredibly subtle, tiny words.
These prepositions.
Yeah, these prepositions. Mastering them is essentially the final bridge between simply being understood as an outsider and truly belonging in that linguistic community.
So using to and for naturally signals to the listener, like, I am one of you.
Exactly. I understand the unwritten rules of our shared reality.
That reframes the whole concept of grammar for me. I mean, it's not about passing a test with a red pen.
No, not at all.
It's an intricate system of social signaling.
That's exactly what it is.
Well, if we accept that native-level naturalness is the ultimate goal here, we need to map out the territory we're working with.
We do.
The text provides foundational definitions for, to, and for, laying out exactly what these tools are designed to do.
Yeah, the guide establishes distinct categories for each. So let's start with to. It outlines several specific functions. First, it indicates direction or destination.
Moving from point A to point B.
Right. Second, it indicates a specific time. Third, it shows preference. Fourth, it marks a limit or an endpoint.
Okay.
And, crucially, it can indicate a reason for something.
A reason, right. And then it shifts to the preposition for, offering a completely different set of functions.
Completely.
For indicates benefits and marks a period of time rather than a specific point in time.
Right. Duration.
Yeah, duration. It indicates assistance or help. It shows the purpose or function for which something is used. And it's used for scheduling and arrangements.
So you have destination, limits, and reasons on one side.
And benefits, duration, and purpose on the other.
Exactly.
You know, as I was reading through those contrasting lists in the source material, I realized how easily they could blur together in practice.
Oh, very easily.
To keep them straight, a visual analogy came to mind that might help you, the listener, hold on to these distinct categories as the concepts get a bit more complex.
I'd love to hear it.
So I pictured the word to acting like an arrow.
An arrow. Okay.
Yeah, it is always pointing somewhere. It has forward momentum. It hits a specific target, whether that target is a physical destination, a specific time on a clock, or a definitive limit on a timeline.
Right.
It is sharp, directional, and precise, like an arrow.
The arrow. I like that. That works really well for the spatial and temporal mechanics of the word.
But then the word for operates entirely differently. It acts much more like a halo or maybe an umbrella.
An umbrella.
Yeah, it isn't pointing at a target. It is an umbrella of benefit, purpose, and time that wraps around a situation.
It encompasses it.
Exactly. It hovers over the subject, providing an atmosphere of assistance or function. So you have the piercing arrow of to and the encompassing halo of for.
That visual framework actually perfectly highlights the central tension the source text introduces.
Oh, does it?
It does. Because if you examine those two lists closely, there is a very dangerous overlap waiting to trap a speaker.
A reason and the purpose.
Yes. The text states that to can indicate a reason for something, but it also states that for can indicate the purpose for which something is used.
Reason and purpose.
Right. And in everyday human thought, those two concepts are incredibly tightly wound together.
I mean, they are essentially synonyms in a philosophical sense.
Exactly.
If I ask you the reason you did something or the purpose for doing something, I am asking the exact same fundamental question about your motivation.
And the source material explicitly acknowledges this friction. It notes that these words can sometimes be completely interchangeable depending on the sentence.
Wow.
What's fascinating here is that despite these distinct lists, the real challenge lies in how these words act when placed next to verbs and nouns.
Right. The raw definitions are the easy part.
Exactly. The actual friction occurs when that arrow and that halo are forced to interact with the moving parts of a sentence.
So let's dig into those mechanics. The text outlines some incredibly strict structural rules for using the word for in active sentences.
It does. Very strict.
It starts with verbs, and the rule is absolute. When you use for followed by a verb, that verb must have an ing attached to it.
It has to be a gerund.
A gerund, right. The examples provided are pretty clear. thank you for being so kind to me, or thank you for helping me learn English.
Yeah.
Another one is, I bought some sugar for making cookies. The guide explains that this specific construction indicates the reason for the action.
So if we look at the architecture of that rule, the ing suffix is actually doing some heavy lifting.
How so?
Well, it is taking an active fluid verb like help or make and crystallizing it into a noun-like entity, a gerund.
Oh, I see.
Because the preposition for, or encompassing halo, needs a solid concept to wrap around.
It can't just wrap around an action.
Exactly. It cannot attach itself to a raw, unconjugated verb. It needs the verb to be packaged as a process or like an ongoing activity.
And the ing provides that package.
The ing provides that necessary structure.
That makes logical sense. But then the text introduces nouns. And the logic takes a sharp left turn into what feels like a mathematical formula.
It really does.
The rule states for plus a noun plus a null set. A zero, nothing.
Right. The null set.
When you use for with a noun, you absolutely cannot add an ing to the end of that noun.
The use of the null set symbol from mathematics is a highly effective way to conceptualize this, I think.
Yeah, it's very definitive.
It isn't just a suggestion that you don't need an ing. It is a definitive declaration that a structural void must exist there.
The ing is actively forbidden from that space.
Forbidden, yes.
The examples the text uses to demonstrate this are, frankly, hilarious to me because they sound so utterly bizarre.
They are quite funny.
It points out that the correct phrasing is, I bought a sandwich for lunch. And it strictly warns against saying, I bought a sandwich for lunching.
Lunching.
Another example it gives, I bought a present for her, not I bought a present for her ing.
Herring.
Reading herring out loud really highlights the absurdity of it. No one would ever say that. It sounds like a glitch in the matrix.
It does sound absurd, but we have to ask ourselves why the authors of the guide felt it was necessary to explicitly warn against it.
Right? Why bring it up if no one says it?
Because people do say it. Put yourself in the mind of the language learner.
Okay.
Your brain is desperately searching for reliable patterns to navigate this dense cityscape.
Sure.
You just internalize the previous rule. For plus an action gets an ing.
Right.
Now, consider the word lunch. Lunch isn't just a sandwich. It feels like an event, right? An activity, a process.
Yeah, eating lunch is an action.
So the logical pattern-seeking brain deduces, well, if lunch is an activity, it requires the ing, hence for lunching.
So the mistake is actually born from applying too much logic.
Exactly. It perfectly highlights the structural traps that await when a speaker tries to apply rigid logical algorithms to a language that evolved organically.
Right, through centuries of messy human use.
Yes. Adding an ing to a noun feels fundamentally unnatural because a noun is already a complete self-contained entity.
To use the analogy, you don't need to put a halo on something that is already wearing one.
Perfect way to frame it. Lunch is already the complete event.
Yeah.
It does not need to be converted into a process.
The noun is already holding its own weight. It doesn't need the ing scaffolding.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have established the mechanical baseline for verbs and nouns.
We have.
But now the guide throws a massive wrench into the gear.
Who always does.
What happens when you use a specific, tricky verb that completely flips the narrative reality of the sentence depending entirely on which preposition you choose?
Yes.
The prime example the text explores is the act of giving.
The verb give is where the profound psychological weight of these tiny words becomes undeniable.
Yeah.
The guide presents a sentence that it identifies as highly prone to misinterpretation.
Oh.
I'm going to give flowers for my mom.
And it contrasts this directly with the standard directional phrasing, I'm going to give flowers to my mom.
Right.
If we bring back the visual analogy, giving to makes perfect sense. The action is giving, the physical object is the flowers, and the arrow is pointing straight at the recipient.
Which is the mom.
Which is the mom. It is pure direction and destination.
And then, interestingly, the text offers the most streamlined native option, which bypasses the preposition entirely.
Oh, right.
I'm giving my mom flowers.
Which is incredibly efficient. It just folds the recipient right into the action. No arrow or halo needed.
Exactly. But let's rewind to that tricky, potentially incorrect sentence. I'm going to give flowers for my mom.
Right.
The text unpacks exactly why this construction causes so much confusion. It explains that substituting for completely rewrites the real-world dynamic.
How?
It means these flowers are being given on behalf of the mom.
This is a fundamental shift in reality.
Massive.
When you change to for, The mother is instantly removed from the role of recipient.
Yes, she is no longer the person receiving the flowers. The halo of for in this context means you are operating under her umbrella of intent. She is the origin point.
Oh, wow.
The text further clarifies this by introducing the preposition from. These flowers are from my mom. Establishes her as the original gift giver, but implies she was unable to physically deliver them herself.
So by using for, you are reducing yourself to a proxy. You are acting as her representative.
You are the delivery mechanism.
That's crazy.
By swapping out one 2-letter word for a 3-letter word, you have fundamentally altered your mother's role in the narrative.
She goes from being the lucky, beloved recipient of a beautiful bouquet to being the boss who dispatched you to run her errands.
Exactly. The emotional intent, the power dynamic, the literal physical transfer of the object, all of it is completely rewritten by that single preposition.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because while we are analyzing this concept of proxies and representatives, there is another rule in the text that deals with the word from that I found endlessly fascinating.
Or the greeting example.
Yes. The guide notes that if you are passing along a greeting, it is completely natural to say hi to him from me.
Right.
The phrase from me acts perfectly as the proxy tag. You are outsourcing the greeting.
You are.
But then the text explicitly notes that saying, give him a hug from me is considered not as common.
It is a brilliant observation of how language collides with physical constraints.
I really want to pull on this thread.
Let's do it.
Why does a physical action like giving a hug resist the proxy preposition from so much more than a verbal action like saying hi?
Well,
is it simply because a greeting is abstract information, allowing it to easily pass through an intermediary? Whereas a hug demands actual physical presence, can we truly not outsource physical affection?
it comes down to the literal mechanics of the human body and how language attempts to map them.
Okay.
A verbal greeting is an intangible transmission of data. Hi.
Right. Data.
It can travel through a phone line, it can be written in an email, and it can be carried by a third party without losing its essential nature.
Because it's just information.
Exactly. Say hi to him from me works because the data remains intact. But a hug is a physical transfer of bodily warmth, pressure, and spatial proximity.
It requires mass and gravity.
Yes. When you attempt to say, give him a hug from me, the listener's brain subconsciously trips over the literal logistics of the command.
Because it's physically impossible.
Right. How do you transfer my specific physical hug through your arms?
You can't.
The preposition from struggles to bridge that physical impossibility. Let's test the boundary of this rule.
Okay, let's test it.
Imagine saying, give him a high five from me.
It feels slightly less awkward than a hug, but still clunky.
Right. What about whisper this secret to him from me?
That works perfectly, because whispering is just data transfer with a volume constraint.
Exactly.
What about a visual, physical action, like wave to him from me?
No, think about that. Wave to him from me feels much more natural.
Oh, you're right.
You are asking someone to perform the visual signaling on your behalf. But the tactile reality of the hug resists the proxy. Language knows the limits of the human body, and the prepositions reflect those limits.
That is so cool.
This is why the text accurately notes it is less common, because it describes an event that cannot physically occur.
That is deeply satisfying to understand. Language mapping physical limits.
It is.
So we've covered the physical transfer of objects like flowers and concepts like hugs.
Yeah.
But what happens when the speaker themselves is the object in physical motion? The guide dedicates a significant section to verbs of travel, transit, and employment. And the rules here are astonishingly precise.
It focuses on verbs denoting movement and intention, specifically heading, going, and driving.
Right.
And the distinctions these prepositions create dictate not merely geographic location, but the speaker's exact socioeconomic relationship to their destination.
Let's start with the driving example, because it is a perfect illustration of how high the stakes can be here. The text states, I'm driving to the restaurant means you are a customer. You are hungry, you're in your car, and the restaurant is your destination.
The arrow is pointing at the food.
Yes, the arrow of to is pointing directly at a plate of food. However, I'm driving for the restaurant means you are a hired delivery driver.
Consider the immense weight of that substitution.
It's massive.
2 frames you as a consumer. 4 frames you as an employee, or at least an independent contractor.
Yeah.
One preposition determines your entire economic relationship with that establishment. It tells the listener whether money is leaving your wallet or entering it.
Wow.
The halo of 4 in this instance represents the overarching umbrella of the restaurant's commercial operations. And you are stating that your physical movement is occurring within that corporate structure.
It's the difference between a Friday night out and a Tuesday night shift.
Exactly.
And the text gets even more microscopic when it comes to the daily commute to an office.
It really breaks it down.
It breaks down the stages of a commute into tiny temporal slices. It explains that saying going to the office is a general statement.
Right.
It just means you are planning to go at some point. But if you say going to head to the office, it means you are about to start the journey, but you are still physically at your starting point. You haven't left the house yet.
It injects a layer of imminent pending action into the timeline.
Right. And then it introduces the most nuanced distinction of all.
Okay.
It contrasts heading for the office with heading to the office.
Right.
The guide notes that heading for implies a destination or direction, but heading to implies physical movement towards it.
Yes.
It emphasizes that when someone explicitly says, I'm heading for the office, they are in the active, ongoing process of transit. They aren't already there, and they aren't just putting their shoes on. They are actively in motion.
It is an incredible display of temporal micromanagement.
But this is where I have to play devil's advocate regarding how we actually use language.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because the text itself admits that in plain, everyday English, both phrases basically mean the exact same thing. You are going towards the office.
Sure.
So why does this complex linguistic machinery exist? Do native speakers actually realize they are signaling these minute, microscopic statuses of their commute?
Consciously.
Yeah, consciously. Like, if I am running late and I quickly text my boss heading to versus heading for, is my boss sitting at their desk actively decoding my exact GPS coordinates based on my preposition choice?
Consciously. Absolutely not.
Okay, good.
If you stopped a native speaker on the street and asked them to explain the difference between heading to and heading for, the vast majority would look at you blankly.
Right, they'd think you were crazy.
But subconsciously, the decoding is absolutely happening.
Really?
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this goes back to the concept of the linguistic cityscape we established at the beginning.
The traffic lights and signs.
Exactly. These prepositions allow speakers to finely tune a listener's expectations without having to provide clumsy, overt exposition.
So it's about managing anxiety and expectations.
Precisely. Think about the modern workplace and the anxiety of time management.
Oh, I know it well.
If you text your boss, I'm going to the office, it is so general that they might not expect to see you until after lunch.
True.
If you text, I'm going to head to the office, you are signaling a transition state. They expect you are currently grabbing your keys and walking out the door.
Right.
But if you text, I'm heading for the office, you are projecting the image of active transit. You are in the car, you are navigating traffic, you are actively closing the physical distance.
Wow.
You are calibrating their patience. You are managing their expectations of your arrival time using only 2 words. It is incredibly efficient.
We are broadcasting all of this subtle temporal metadata, and we don't even know we're doing it.
We really are.
The guide also points out a related rule here. It notes that specific verbs inherently require the umbrella of for. Verbs like buy, leave, depart, and head. For example, leaving for a business trip.
Yes, because a business trip is not merely a set of geographic coordinates on a map.
Right.
You don't leave to a concept. A business trip is an event. It's a purpose, an encompassing halo of professional obligation.
So you need the halo preposition.
Therefore, you leave for it,
yeah.
You enter its atmosphere.
Which serves as a perfect transition into how the guide handles the broader concept of employment.
Let's get into it.
Since we are already discussing the nuances of commuting to the office, let's examine how the text treats the word work itself.
Okay.
Because work is like a linguistic chameleon. It can be a physical place, an action, or an abstract reason. And the prepositions have to flawlessly adapt to whichever version is being used.
The guide provides a remarkably clear breakdown of this flexibility. Consider the sentence, I'm going to work.
Okay.
In this specific construction, work is functioning as a noun. It represents the physical location.
The building.
It is the office building, the hospital ward, the construction site. The preposition to acts perfectly as the directional arrow, pointing your physical movement at that location.
But the text notes that by simply appending one word to the end of the sentence, the entire grammatical structure shifts.
Which word?
Now. I'm going to work now.
Ah, yes.
The addition of now transforms work from a physical destination into an active verb. It represents the initiation of an action, whether that action is opening a spreadsheet, picking up a hammer, or making a phone call.
And then the guide brings the preposition for back into the equation.
Right.
He's going to Australia for work. In this scenario, work is neither the verb nor the immediate destination. Australia is the destination.
The arrow points to Australia.
The arrow of to points at Australia. Work in this sentence is the overarching reason, the purpose that justifies the transcontinental flight. It is the halo surrounding the entire endeavor.
For you, the listener, I think this is where the theoretical grammar meets incredibly practical application. Whether you are trying to understand a new colleague, reading between the lines in an email, or just navigating a networking event, paying attention to these tiny prepositional shifts drastically alters how you assess the reality of the person speaking.
It really does.
The text provides a brilliant example regarding bicycles to illustrate this. Riding my bike to work versus riding my bike for work.
It is a seemingly microscopic difference in phrasing that reveals entirely different life circumstances.
Exactly. If you are chatting with someone and they casually mention they are riding their bike to work, you immediately form a mental profile.
You do.
You assess their lifestyle as perhaps eco-conscious or health-focused, or maybe they just live in a city with terrible traffic.
Right.
The bicycle is merely the chosen vehicle, the arrow, to reach the destination of the office quickly.
But if they say they are riding their bike for work,
The entire paradigm shifts. The bike ride is no longer the commute. The bike ride is the employment.
Yeah.
They are a bicycle courier, a food delivery person, or a tour guide. The physical exertion of riding the bike is the service they are providing under the umbrella of their employer.
it completely reframes your understanding of their daily physical reality and their professional identity.
Totally.
The guide also adds one final fascinating nuance to the work context. It presents the phrase, "I need to work hard."
Okay, no prepositions there.
Exactly. Here we see the absence of our prepositions. To work functions as the infinitive verb, and the adverb hard describes the intensity of the effort.
Right.
It perfectly encapsulates how the word work requires these tiny prepositional handlers to dictate its exact function in any given thought.
It's like linguistics sleight of hand.
It is.
So we've explored how to and for control physical movement, economic status, and temporal expectations. But the guide reveals another layer of complexity.
Look at that.
It demonstrates how these specific prepositions act as the control valves for the formality of our vocabulary.
Oh, the register. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. It explores what happens to a sentence when we actively try to avoid using to and for by replacing them with synonymous phrases.
The source material provides a series of revised sentences designed to demonstrate interchangeability and context.
Right.
However, what it inadvertently or perhaps brilliantly highlights is the sociological concept of register.
Register.
Register is the degree of formality we choose to employ based on our audience and setting.
The examples are illuminating. Earlier, we look at the very casual, straightforward sentence, "I bought some sugar to make cookies."
Right, very natural.
The text offers an interchangeable, highly formal version of the exact same thought. "I bought some sugar for the purpose of making cookies."
Right.
Another example shifts from "I'm going to the mall to buy shoes" to "I'm heading to the mall with the intention of buying shoes."
Pay attention to the structural bloat that occurs in those revisions.
It's so bloated.
When you remove the simple, efficient arrow of to or the halo of for, you are forced to expand the sentence with highly clinical, almost legalistic phrasing.
Like "for the purpose of."
For the purpose of, with the intention of. You are adding syllables and abstract nouns to accomplish what a two-letter word did effortlessly.
And it gets so much more bureaucratic as the examples progress.
Let's hear them.
"Give my mom flowers" becomes "present flowers to my mother."
Very stiff.
Or "I gave her advice, but she didn't take it." Morphs into "I provided her with advice, but she didn't act on it."
Corporate speak.
My absolute favorite is the key example. "I gave my mom the keys" turns into "I transferred the keys to my mother."
Transferred.
Transferred. It sounds like you are executing a complex real estate transaction or moving funds between offshore bank accounts, not just handing someone a piece of metal.
It drains all the warmth from the interaction.
It really does. And the absolute peak of this Unnatural formality is the physical action example.
Oh boy.
The text notes that you can technically change the phrase, give me a hug, to embrace me.
Oh my goodness.
I have to admit, I laughed out loud at the extreme tonal whiplash of that substitution.
Embrace me.
Picture a scenario where a friend is visibly upset, and instead of opening their arms and saying, give me a hug, they look you dead in the eye with a completely straight face and command, embrace me.
It transforms a moment of casual comfort into dialogue from a melodramatic 19th century Gothic romance novel.
Exactly.
Or a Shakespearean tragedy.
Right. Nobody speaks like that in the modern world unless they're performing.
No.
And that is the crucial takeaway from this section of the guide. It proves that relying too heavily on formal, multi-word synonyms to avoid these tricky, multifaceted prepositions doesn't make you sound smarter or more fluent.
It makes you sound like a robot.
It makes you sound like a robot or a lawyer or a dramatic actor. It demonstrates that to and for aren't just structural joints. They are the essential glue that keeps our language casual, conversational, and most importantly, human.
That is a profound observation. The simplicity of to and for is exactly what allows English to be intimate.
Intimate. I like that.
When we strip away the bureaucratic bloat of for the purpose of, we are left with direct, unpretentious connection, which naturally brings us to the final and arguably the most significant section of the source material.
Yes. We are moving away from the physical logistics of commuting and the robotic bloat of formal language. We are now diving into the deeply personal,
The psychology of it all.
Exactly. The guide tackles how to and for act as windows into our internal psychology, revealing our subjective opinions, our objective calculations, and our deepest desires.
The text initiates this psychological exploration by examining the concept of importance and personal value.
Okay.
It contrasts two specific phrases. All that matters to me is the cost versus it's important to me.
Okay, let's break that down. All that matters to me implies an exclusivity of focus.
Yes.
If the cost is all that matters to me, I am actively disregarding quality, aesthetics, or brand loyalty. It is a singular, sharp arrow of concern, whereas it's important to me is much softer. It means the subject holds personal significance, but doesn't exclude other factors from also being important.
But the psychological distinction becomes razor sharp when the text applies these words to major life decisions.
Oh, the study abroad example.
Yes, the guide provides a fascinating matrix of perspectives surrounding the act of studying abroad. Let's analyze the first pair of sentences. It's very important for me to study abroad versus it's very important to me to study abroad.
This is where the arrow and the halo metaphor really proves its worth emotionally.
How so?
The text explains that saying important for me signifies an objective external benefit. It is a calculation of utility.
Right, the halo of benefit.
You are saying that studying abroad will look fantastic on a resume, will force you to become fluent in a second language, and it will expand your global network. You are placing the action under the halo of long-term benefit.
Yes.
But saying important to me indicates something entirely different. It points inward. It indicates a deeply held personal desire.
Subjective feeling.
Yes. It is a dream you hold in your heart, regardless of whether it actually helps your career.
Exactly. For me, represents an objective assessment of utility and external benefit. To me, represents a subjective internal feeling and passion.
It's a huge difference.
And the guide brilliantly layers this psychological dynamic by introducing a third party into the sentence structure, a parent.
Yes, the dad example. My dad thinks it's important for me to study abroad.
Right.
The text explains that this phrasing means the father believes the experience will be beneficial for his child's future prospects. He is looking at the data. He is assessing the return on investment.
Versus the alternative. My dad thinks it's important to me to study abroad.
Which changes the father's entire emotional posture.
It really does.
If he thinks it's important to me, he is recognizing his child's personal passion. He sees their desire. He isn't evaluating the resume value or the economic utility of the trip. He is acknowledging his child's heart. The level of emotional intelligence required to consciously choose the right preposition in that scenario is staggering. You are broadcasting whether your parent views you as a project to be optimized or a human being with individual desires.
It reveals how these prepositions act as a mirror to our internal state and our perception of others.
Totally.
Let's look at another seemingly simple example from the text involving art. The act of singing.
Okay.
Sing to me versus sing for me.
Sing to me is pure direction. The arrow. I am the audience of one sitting right in front of you. I want to be the direct recipient of your art.
Right.
But sing for me relies on the proxy concept again. It means on my behalf. Perhaps I lost my voice, or I lack the courage to get on stage, so I need you to go up there and perform under my umbrella of intent. You are representing me through song.
Then the text takes this deep analysis of perception, desire, and utility and applies it to the most volatile arena of all, romantic relationships.
Good Lord.
This is where the nuances reach their absolute peak. It explores how we complement people and how we assess the ultimate value of our partnerships.
This part of the guide was completely riveting because the stakes are so personal.
Very high stakes.
The text starts with a direct compliment. You are the most beautiful girl, at least to me.
Okay.
The guide explains this is a statement of personal opinion. It is entirely subjective. The arrow of perception is originating from the speaker and landing on the partner.
Right.
Then it contrasts that with a mother's external perspective. My mother thinks you're the most beautiful girl for me. The text notes this means the mother believes the girl is the best option considering beauty.
The word option is the critical component there. It implies a selection process, a lineup of candidates.
Yikes.
The mother is evaluating the marketplace of potential partners and declaring this one the most suitable under the umbrella of her child's needs.
Yes. And the intensity increases when the guide moves from physical beauty to assessing the relationship as a whole. You are the perfect girlfriend, at least for me.
Okay, unpack that.
The text explains the underlying meaning here. I acknowledge that other people might have completely different opinions of you, or that you might not be objectively perfect, but you are the perfect match for my specific quirky needs.
Right.
It is an evaluation of compatibility. It's fitting two puzzle pieces together.
It is deeply pragmatic. Whereas the alternative, you are the perfect girlfriend, at least to me, carries a profoundly different emotional weight.
Because it's subjective.
Exactly. The text suggests this means I personally think you are flawless, period, regardless of what anyone else on earth thinks. It is a statement of absolute subjective adoration. It abandons the calculation of matching traits entirely.
So what does this all mean? The final, most devastating example the text provides brings the mother back in to render a final judgment on the relationship.
Oh, this one is brutal.
My mom thinks you're the best for me versus my mom thinks you're the best to me. When I really analyzed the text's explanation of this distinction, it was incredibly powerful.
It is.
When a mother says a partner is the best for you, the guide says she thinks they are the best option available. Again, it sounds like a cold calculation.
It's an assessment.
It is a pragmatic assessment of whether this partner brings objectively good benefits, stability, financial security, social standing into your life.
It is the halo of utility applied to love.
Exactly. But when the mother says they are the best to you, the text explains that she believes they are the best thing that has happened to you.
Right.
It stems from a place of gratitude for how her child is being treated. The arrow of affection and care is pointing directly at her child, and she is witnessing it.
It's beautiful.
It is the fundamental difference between evaluating a resume and witnessing a true romance. One is a transactional assessment of value. The other is a recognition of an emotional reality.
It masterfully demonstrates that mastering these microscopic words isn't about appeasing grammarians or passing a language test. It is about emotional accuracy. If you use for when you actually mean to in the context of a long-term relationship, you might inadvertently communicate to your partner that you view them as a highly efficient, beneficial lifestyle accessory.
Ouch.
Rather than the subjective, irreplaceable love of your life. The collateral damage of choosing the wrong preposition can be severe.
What an unbelievable journey this source material has taken us on. We started with the absolute rigid mechanics of attaching thing to action verbs and strictly forbidding them from nouns, navigating the absurd null sets of lunching.
We drove through the metaphorical cityscape, carefully distinguishing between being a hungry customer driving to a restaurant and a working employee driving for them. We mapped out the microscopic, anxiety-inducing timelines of heading to the office versus heading for the office.
We analyzed the bureaucratic bloat of yelling, "Embrace me," just to avoid using a preposition, realizing how formal language often strips us of our humanity. And finally, we ended up navigating the deepest emotional waters of important to me versus important for me, parsing the razor-thin line between a calculated objective benefit and a deeply held, passionate desire.
For you, the listener, the ultimate takeaway from this guide is profound. We live in a world defined by constant, relentless information overload.
You really do.
We are texting, emailing, and speaking faster than any generation in human history. In that rushing current of data, the precision of your communication matters more than ever.
Absolutely.
Understanding these subtleties ensures that your actual intentions, your exact professional statuses, and your truest emotional desires are accurately conveyed. Paying attention to these tiny nuances doesn't just make you a more fluent speaker of English. It makes you a sharper, more aware, and ultimately more empathetic communicator in every single aspect of your daily life.
You stop building your conversational bridges out of fog, and you start building them with absolute structural integrity. Which leaves me with a final lingering thought based on everything we've unpacked today. If the profound difference between acting on your own passionate desire, doing something that is important to me, and doing something merely because it is a calculated objective benefit, something important for me, comes down to the subconscious selection of a single, 2-letter, or 3-letter preposition. Do our rapid-fire choices of these tiny words reveal our true, hidden motivations to others before we even realize them ourselves? Next time you speak, next time you are trying to navigate your way through this crowded, complex linguistic cityscape, pause and ask yourself, are you doing it to them or for them? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Hello, it's Rod's friend here, Gino from Real Everyday English. Sorry for interrupting your video. I just want to make a quick recommendation that you subscribe to Rodrigo's channel. He's an amazing guy. He's so humble. He's so dedicated. And he creates absolutely fantastic content. See you people soon. Bye-bye. God bless.